Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Making of podcast. I'm your co-host, Ashley Joves,
And I'm Collin Al-Samarrie.
and this is going to be a wham bam thank you, ma'am.
Yes. We are going to go over hiring because I think you've created a great culture at Smile and Company and you've learned things over the years. So I just want to ask a few questions that hopefully can help all the startup docs out there with hiring. Okay, so you know that you always hear the phrase hire for personality, train for skill, which is great in theory, but how do you balance actually like hiring for your culture fit versus how much clinical skill someone has?
Oh man, that is such a great question. And thank you for that. It means a lot that obviously you've been part of our culture for 8 years.
Well, bias.
You're a little biased, but the fact that, I mean, you've been here, Judy, Cynthia, my tried and true OGs, it just means so much. And not that I haven't made mistakes with hiring, but I will say that I think when you are thinking about your position, not even necessarily the office culture, yes, you have to define what your culture is going to look like. I think you need to envision the avatar of that specific position, meaning,
Okay.
like for instance, I would want someone very bubbly, very, very warm to be the first impression, someone who is answering the phones, greeting our patients. I don't necessarily need them to be experienced because we've had amazing, I mean, I've been known to hire from restaurants and Starbucks. And I think when they're already in the service industry, they understand what unreasonable hospitality looks like. And then you define it, whatever that looks like in your office. But I wouldn't hire someone who is necessarily naturally an introvert where they really have to be pushed out of their comfort zone every time the phone rings or every time they stand up, because I think that's a lot to ask of someone.
Yeah.
And I also would never hire someone like me doing much of anything, honestly. There can only be one Ashley in the office, but I wouldn't want someone who is really outgoing doing payroll or
Yeah.
inventory, or because naturally that person would gravitate towards people. So yeah, figure out the position first.
Okay.
Figure out what skills does this person need to possess in order for them to be at their best day in, day out. So there is something called a work personality and a natural personality. And for a long time, we were doing personality profile assessments where, you know, in a work environment, how much do you have to push someone outside of that comfort level? Because that will determine their stress level, their happiness, whether or not this is going to be a long-term fit. And you don't want to be just at odds with someone's natural personality right out of the gate.
I was going to ask you about the personality test. You've done many of them. Which one do you like the most?
I love the Enneagram test.
Okay.
I feel, I mean, we've taken so many, the disc.
Yeah.
How many different discs have we taken? Like, honestly, Enneagram. And we've also done the Culture Index, which is a company that Brian's organization hired and trained with. But the Enneagram, if you haven't heard of it, it is, I mean, they have podcasts devoted strictly to these tests. And you can download, it's like an $11 test. You can get it at Ready, RHETI.
I'll link it.
.com. We'll link it in the show notes. But it's a list of, I think it's 50 questions. It already tells you, make sure that you have a dedicated 50 minutes to 90 minutes to answer these, because it'll ask you a question and give you two responses. And the two responses are so crazy close to one another that you really have to think, which one would I choose?
Yeah.
And then once you get your results, it's so crazy how accurate it is. Collin and I are polar opposites, which is, I think, why we work so well together.
Probably.
Yeah. And in the past, just going off of just hiring for culture, I don't want, I said this earlier, but I really, in all sincerity, don't need or want an office full of me's. I don't want everyone like trying to be outgoing and like chatting it up because no work is actually going to get done. And in the past, I used to think that friction in the office environment was a bad thing, but you need to have healthy friction.
Yeah.
Not backstabbing friction, but you need people who are going to have differing opinions as you. And you also have to create an environment where there is in the workplace so that they can tell you when they disagree. And that is when we've had the most success with our teams.
Yeah, I love that. Just starting out for a startup doc, like what are the positions you would say are most necessary?
A dental assistant for sure, a front office and admin who has experience, especially if you do not know what you're doing in the front office. And most of you listening, if you've been an associate, there's no way you've learned insurance, credentialing, and billing and all of that. So I listened to a podcast not too long ago, and they basically said, hire for where you want to go, not hire for now. And the reason why I say that is because I'll give you a very real world example.
Okay.
I did not hire Judy right out of the gate because she was out of my budget. She had too much experience, and because of the experience, she commanded a higher level of pay. And I told her, I'm like, Judes, I can't afford that right now. And I hired someone who was a lot cheaper, but with almost no experience. She was willing to learn. However, who was going to train her? I didn't know what I was doing, and she didn't know what I was doing. And in the end, she lasted a week. Like a week. And Judy, because she's an angel, I called her right away and I said, Judy, I made the biggest mistake by not hiring you right off the bat. Can you help us? So Judy came on board, like, because the other person quit literally. Because we started training a week before, 2 weeks before we opened. She lasted a week. And then I scrambled to get Judy in. So Judy put in her 2 weeks and she started the day after we opened our doors.
Oh, so the first girl didn't even last a week of you guys being open.
No.
Okay.
No. I think it was like a couple days. Yeah.
So assistant, maybe with a little bit experience.
Yes.
I mean, they have to know the basics, right? And
Yeah.
then front office,
Yeah.
someone that does have some experience.
Yes.
So even though you're looking for personality, you should still look within the dental community.
If this is your first rodeo, highly recommend it.
Yeah.
Yes. And even better if you have cross-trained employees in those positions. For those first two, experience matters. And I would highly recommend not letting whatever their desired salary is deter you from hiring the right fit, because they will be worth their weight in gold.
And since you're running lean and mean,
Yes.
you can maybe hopefully afford a little bit more for those specific people.
Exactly.
What are questions in interviews that you like to ask that are maybe the non-traditional ones? Because I think it's so easy to go into an interview saying, what is your biggest challenge? What are like different interview questions that you like to ask?
What was the last book they read?
Okay.
Because usually nobody asks that, and it really makes them think about it. And what's your favorite ice cream flavor? Only because I really love food. And I think it's an easy icebreaker. And they already feel a little disarmed that they're not necessarily in an interview type setting. Like, mint chocolate chip. I don't know. I tend to ask fun questions, like favorite place of travel.
Do you find that asking these kinds of questions gives you a little more background into maybe who they are versus like what they know? But do you ask, you ask the other questions too, right?
I do ask, yes. One thing that I didn't necessarily do in the beginning, because it was more like, let's get to know who you are, not on the resume.
Okay.
But I'll give them a situation where if I'm hiring for an admin or a treatment coordinator, I will give a situation where I am role playing with them and I want to see what their response is.
Okay.
Which has been newer. But I think when you are like hiring for more senior level positions, you have to be asking like role playing questions. Like, I have a patient and you need to tell me that my insurance doesn't pay for this. Like, how do you get me on the books, or something like that?
Okay. What's your biggest red flag in someone just like right out the gate?
Oh gosh, biggest red flag I think is negatively talking about any office or ex like teammate or like if someone is already starting this entire conversation on why it didn't work out for them in the previous office, that's always a red flag. Similarly to patients who badmouth every dentist who's ever been in their mouths.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, oh, that's definitely a red flag. Hey friends, I just want to give some love to Net32 for supporting this episode. If you're a practice owner like me, you know the back end of running a dental office isn't always sexy, but it is necessary. Net32 is an online marketplace where you can compare brands, vendors, and prices all in one place. That means you're not overpaying or wasting time. And when you're building a startup or juggling multiple practices, every dollar and every minute matters. I've used Net32 and it's honestly made a huge difference. Check them out at net32.com/the making of. And now let's get back to the show.
In working interviews, do you do working interviews?
We do.
Okay. In working interviews, I mean, everyone's, a little shaky because it's new. What are green flags, red flags during a working interview that you've noticed?
Okay. So if it is a hygienist, I like hygiene to be proactive in like co-diagnosing course, but also if their schedule, if they don't have a patient at that time, I want them to be hanging around and asking if they can help assist, or show, or even standing in the hallway and listening to what the communication is, how we say things in a doctor patient environment. I think anytime a team member is naturally curious and also willing to, I also bring this up too, willing to like just get to know more, not necessarily about what's involved in their specific roles, but also like how do we greet people, or like hanging out at the front office and seeing how people answer the phones.
Okay.
But one thing that I will also pay attention to is if there's a piece of garbage or a piece of something, a plastic or a lint on the floor, if I see that person bend down and pick it up, I think that's huge, because it shows that they take ownership in their environment. They don't necessarily, it's not below them to clean.
Yeah.
Like, I will clean a toilet, but that's also, I don't know if that's owner mentality, because
Yeah. Okay. So just those are some of the little things, curiosity, just being mindful of the space and what's happening. When you're a startup office, I think you're talking about, paying someone what they're demanding or commanding. Since they have experience, a lot of the DSOs out there offer huge packages, signing bonuses, all these extra things. What is something that you've been through it and a startup doc can maybe do to help entice some of those people into their office versus like going to a DSO?
I mean, we lead with culture. And if that person is solely going to accept a position because of the bells and whistles, then I totally understand they have to do what's best for them. But I also make it known that we're not going to be able to compete with that. And the reason why you hear laughter here, the reason why you see raving reviews about the office culture from our patient, is because we genuinely love what we do and who we do it with. And the culture in the DSO world, a lot of our employees came from those places.
Yeah.
And while they are getting those benefits, it is definitely a place that they are not going to experience that same camaraderie. So at the end of the day, this is who we are. We are still a mom and pop small business. And our goal is to create an environment and office culture, not just for our patients to love, but for our employees to love, even more importantly, honestly.
Love that. This goes with hiring, but also firing now because you've had to do that.
Yeah.
Just simply, do you have any advice for someone who will need to fire someone? So, what's your advice for a startup doc if they need to let someone go?
Yeah.
Like, how do you go about that?
It is so firing is never easy. And no matter how many years you're in the business, it doesn't get easier. At least for me, it doesn't. But one thing that I've learned over the years is that it cannot be personal. You ultimately have to do what is best for the business, because what is best for the business is actually, in the end, best for the overall office culture. And the sooner you can get it done, you will feel so much better. And you can, I mean, you can obviously feel bad, but don't beat yourself up for it. Like in the beginning, I think I spent so many sleepless nights staying awake, trying to make everybody happy, trying to create this amazing office culture. And in the end, I would suffer because you can't always win 100% of the time. You can't. It's impossible. And one of the best pieces of advice was given by another doctor, and he said, in this business, give yourself as the owner permission to be brutal, and it's okay. And when you do fire, make sure you have a witness, whether that is an office manager, usually someone like higher up, right? There should always be a witness. You want to make sure that it is very fast and you don't give any reasons. You say, I'm sorry, Collin, this is not the right fit. Today will be your last day. And Judy will go over the next steps for you. And we wish you the best of luck. And that's it.
Nothing more.
Nothing more.
No
And
explanations.
no, and you don't even have to sit down, and don't make it a long, drawn out thing with 1,000 reasons why, because ultimately there's been documentation of all the write-ups or anything that needed to be addressed.
Yeah.
And if there aren't any corrections to those behaviors, it's already in their chart. And also, if you don't have a good HR company, can you please hire an HR company? There is nothing, especially if you're in a state like California, you want to just make sure your ducks are in a row. So when we are thinking about this course of action for this person, we already have our attorney informed, the HR specialist is going through all the A through Z checklists, and then you just make sure you have their final check and cut ties.
Yeah. They say hire slow, fire fast, right? So if you know that this person's already not the right fit, would you try to hire someone before that? Or like, right now it's not the right fit, let them go and suffer maybe in the practice for a few days without that person? What's the balance there?
So the balance is that you should always have an ad out for every position at all times. And a few of our friends who are badass business owners, they do this, and everybody, I don't know, the office culture, they know that there's a standard of excellence that we expect at Smile & Co. And these are the things that we need met. And if not, we will find someone who will meet those expectations.
So always have an ad out.
Yeah.
Always accept resumes.
Always.
If someone comes and drops one off, you don't need to tell them that you're not hiring.
Always have room for amazing people.
Love that. What's one piece of advice if someone is looking for someone, or if a doctor's out there looking to hire someone and maybe they're just not getting anyone on Indeed or anything? What would you tell them like tomorrow morning to do?
Oh gosh, I would put it out on social media. You never know who knows someone. I think our best referrals have been through friends of friends or
Yeah.
family members on social media. But also, guys, the best people don't necessarily have their resumes on Indeed. Like we found Collin just creeping in like a Facebook group. She wasn't necessarily looking. We just slid into those DMs.
Don't be afraid of the ask.
Don't be afraid of the ask. Yeah.
You actually stopped someone at a restaurant.
Time.
You liked her service and just gave her the card, your card. Okay.
Yeah. I think that's happened like 3 times.
Okay. Awesome.
And I've hired patients.
You have that you liked. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I mean, who knows the office culture better than a patient? So good people are everywhere. And if you find someone who is a good culture fit, just such a winning personality that who understands just how you do things, then you can train them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is something that I've just noticed. I think some of the best employees too, and Rich mentioned this in his last episode, just that having like a space for your team members to grow if they want to is like a way to really just keep them within your organization. And I think those are probably your best employees anyways, because they want to continue to be better.
Yes.
So if someone you have is just like, this is just a pit stop.
Happy where I'm at.
Yeah. Okay, cool. That's it. That's all I've got.
Fast.
Yeah. Thank you.
Just a little quickie.
A little quickie.
Hope it was satisfying for you guys.
If you have any questions, if you have any tips and tricks, please let us know. You know where to find us. I will link all the socials in the show notes.
Yeah. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye. $250,000. That's how much the average dental practice loses every year to empty chairs, no-shows, last-minute cancellation, gaps that just sit there. Casper's Opportunity Finder constantly checks your schedule and sees every gap the second it opens and helps your team fill it with one single click. And for every Open Dental user, it's completely free. Go to meetcasper.com/register to download it today, because profit isn't the opposite of purpose. It's what funds it.